Hey guys, this is another Linux tier list video. Very original idea, I know. The criteria for this is user centricity. I have some considerations for whether the distro justifies its own existence, and also some personal preference that you'll make out by the end of this video. If your favorite distro isn't on here, it's because I've either not tried it or don't have much to say.
Omarchy.
Now, without mentioning DHH, Omarchy is, to me, a glorified .file repo. It's basically just someone else's workflow, program choices, and mental model wrapped up in an ISO. Omarchy also has application launcher entries for ChatGPT, which, yeah, I mean, I would probably not use this distro outside of a virtual machine, but at least the install process is easy. It's not going to be above enough for me.
Kali Linux.
Now, Kali Linux, a bit of a PSA. I only have this as a PSA. Stop using this distro outside of pen testing. Documentation says you shouldn't use this as a desktop operating system. It is strictly for pen testing, and if you don't know what you're doing, you could get into a lot of legal trouble.
Manjaro Linux.
Now for Manjaro, and when I think of Manjaro, I think of incompetency, with its SSL certificate issues, or Hamac DDoSing the AUR. It even struggles to justify its existence by calling itself stable Arch Linux, which to me just means that they've pushed the packages back 2 weeks without any real testing. So I struggle to give Manjaro more than a D.
Ubuntu.
Next we got Ubuntu, and it goes without saying that Ubuntu's a shadow of what it once was. Canonical has shriveled up after years of controversial anti-user decisions that have led us to today, where Fedora is widely considered the new default Linux distro. So yeah, you won't be catching me using an operating system that forces me to use Snap.
Pop OS.
I have a soft spot for it because it's one of the first distros I properly interacted with after Linux Mint, and it is a decent new user experience. However, I can't really give it much more than a C, because in current day Linux, it ships unreliable software like its desktop environment in a release labeled as LTS to unassuming new users. That said, it's going to be a very good distro in a couple of years, I think, and it might fill the Ubuntu shaped hole that Fedora is currently taking up.
Linux Mint.
Now for Linux Mint, I did say it was my first ever distro, which, yeah, I think it's a lot of people's first distro. However, it makes fundamental assumptions by design, and for my criteria, it can't really do better than a C tier. I would, however, recommend this for first-time Linux users, particularly Windows refugees.
Slackware.
Now for Slackware, it is heavily carried by it being the first ever distro. In current day Linux, it has no dependency resolution and very outdated packages. So, yeah, sorry, but D tier, you go.
Endeavor OS.
Now I've got Endeavor OS, and to me it's just the Calamares installer for Arch Linux. I don't really see the use for it, especially when Arch has a TUI installer. To me it really does struggle to justify its existence, but at least it's not Manjaro. C tier.
Debian? I love Drew. Drew's my favorite.
Now for Debian, I run Debian on my server. Rock solid, just works. But it's not really daily drivable for a desktop machine, just down to its old packages and weird omissions, like Intel Undervolt not being in the repos. It is fundamental to my own use, but it can't do more than a B.
CachyOS.
I'm gonna put CachyOS in B tier, and you might be asking why CachyOS is a tier above Endeavor. And to me, it's just down to its compiled packages that are optimized for modern CPUs. It also comes with a custom kernel that may or may not provide performance benefits. But yeah, I mean, it does have customizations. It has a custom scheduler, and the very, very awesome Proton compatibility layer by the CachyOS team. So I think it does do enough to justify its existence, and a solid distro for anyone who wants to game.
Fedora Linux.
We've got Fedora here, and yeah, Fedora's solid. It's basically just the other side of Ubuntu. Got a good release cycle, provides cutting-edge software where it matters, and RPM Fusion's a great repository for people who need a non-free software. And that's another thing, Fedora provides free software only by default, which I think is a bonus when it comes to user centricity and the choice of not using non-free software. They also don't shove Flatpak down your throat, so I don't have much else to complain about, probably besides SE Linux being in the way sometimes. But yeah, no, solid B tier.
Arch Linux.
Arch Linux, what would it be if it wasn't user-centric? That's what it calls itself in the Arch Wiki, also known as the best documentation in the planet. Assumes very little besides init system, but in my experience, Pacman is a little bit flaky, and it doesn't support partial upgrades, but it also has the AUR, and the AUR is awesome. So yeah, I think A tier, sir.
Linux.
Artix does provide the choice that Arch Linux does not, and that is the init system. It provides 4 init systems, I believe. Why it's not above Arch is because if you use the AUR, chances are some of the packages assume you have systemd, so there might be some friction there. Besides that though, good distro for someone who doesn't want to use systemd for one reason or another.
Not a real disk.
Now for NixOS, I personally have not enjoyed using NixOS, but I'm gonna put that down to user error and a skill issue, because I've struggled to really internalize the NixOS mental model. The idea is very cool though. It solves system snapshots with generations. The amount of flexibility you get with controlling packages is something that's really cool. And having your system configured in a single file is also an awesome idea to me. In spite of my personal failures of using NixOS, I'm gonna put it in A.
Dude, did you know that systemd is bloated?
Now we've got Void, and I'm torn because it is my favorite distro. Void Linux is fantastic when it comes to user centricity. It ships with Runit, which isn't the most capable init system, but to me that's by design, because it provides a simple way to manage your services and a very satisfying mental model for wannabe sysadmins like myself. XBPS to me is probably the best package manager in the Linux family of distros. It's got very good partial upgrade support. It can resume updates when it's interrupted, and it also straight up refuses to update if shared libraries are out of date. Void also gives you the option of running Muso libc, which none of the other distros on this list can claim, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, very little is assumed of the user, and what sells it for me is anything that runs on Void, it's because I've explicitly told it to. So for me, it goes in S tier.
Shout out Larry the Cow, that guy's my goat.
Now we've got Gentoo, which I think is about as good as it gets. It's basically just Linux from scratch, but usable. You get to compile everything down to the package, configured through use flags, which you can declare from individual packages all the way up to system-wide flags. You can choose between OpenRC and systemd, and compile packages in such a way that is optimized for your specific CPU microarchitecture. So Gentoo really does just solidify into whatever mold you put it in. The time sync that comes with compiling packages is noticeable, but they do provide pre-compiled binaries for those who wish to use them. Portage is also a contender for the most robust package manager that I've ever used. It handles both binary packages and source code, alongside a plethora of use flags to consider for an infinite number of use cases. The amount of times I've been able to recover a compile with emerge resume from a dead laptop is really something special. And on top of all that, Gentoo is live ISO agnostic. And what I mean by that is you can install Gentoo on a Gentoo ISO, an Arch ISO, or even a Mint ISO. It is truly the only distro that assumes next to nothing about the user. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my tier list. As I said before, if your distro is not here, it's because I've not tried it or don't have much to say about it. Thanks for watching.